everyone, welcome to Quilt Mania's Mystery Block of the Month, Part 3. Flick and Fletcher decided not to have anything to do with us today. They're just going to watch from a distance from their chair, so poo to you kids. Now this is what we're doing. We are doing adding a border around our parts 1 and part 2. So it's a border consisting of hexagons with broderie purse and some applique leaves. First, I've forgotten the fabrics. Now what we have is a repeat of the chintz that we used in part 1, the stems that we used in part 1, and then the tan, the blue and the mauve print from part 2, which were in the triangles and the little circles. We're introducing some new fabrics. We have a new background fabric, which is this one here, which is the background of the applique. I've actually stated that you need 1.5 meters of this one to actually finish off the rest of it, parts of the quilt. Now we've also got a slightly darker beigey print for the corner squares, just to make the corners a little more defined. We've then got 1, 2, 3, 4 new fabrics that we'll use in the hexagons. A black print, a red print, a pink print, and the centre, which I've actually deliberately chosen a light centre to give the hexagon a sort of a wreath look and sort of keep the border quite light and airy. Then we have 2 fabrics for the leaves, a blue print and a brown print, which are these 2 at the bottom here. Now to prepare our background for the applique, 5 inches by 29 inches. You're going to trim that back when you've completed all the applique work to 28.5 by 4.5 inches to give you a 4-inch wide by 28-inch long border. Now I have just very lightly also just pressed it in half this way, and I'm going to line that halfway, this half line here with my dashed line here, which is the centre of the block. Also to folding the middle and matching the centre of the length with this part here. Then I'm going to lay it on, matching up my lightly pressed line here with the dashed line, and then I know I've got the border centred in the middle of the strip and also in the middle of the width of the strip. Now I actually did do this a little earlier. I have actually drawn on the stem line, which is this wavy line here. So the techniques of putting the stem on are going to be the same as you actually used in part 1. Now for the leaves, actually I need a pattern. If we look at these marks that I've got here, see these little dashed lines here, all I did there was just placing this here, and I've just marked the very point of the leaf. So if we look at it here, just a little line here and here. So it's what I like to call minimal marking, so it means I haven't got to cover a whole leaf. All I've got to worry about is getting the point covered, and I know that's as far as, I don't want the point to come any further than that, because remember, a little bit's going to be trimmed off, and then we've got a seam allowance here as well too. Now the stems, you can do it 2 ways. What I did, if you could see it underneath here, if my length of stem wasn't long enough, I have a little join where the leaves meet. So I just did it in sections, making sure any join appeared at this point here. But if you prefer, you could actually join them, and that would entail you cutting your strips, again, like we did in part 1. I think for this one, I know, I've asked you to cut a 9 3/4 inch square of this fabric and the other fabric, this one here. And then that I've actually got, out of this 1 square, I got 12 strips with this little bit left over. And I don't think I'll have to use that bit at all. Now what I'm going to do is leave, if you're joining it, leave the diagonal angle here, and you're just going to flip one over to the other, like so, leaving a little knob, like this little V section here at each end. This should actually be like your 1/4 inch seam allowance where this junction is here. We're going to stitch right across there. I stitched on the sewing machine. So it was actually like this and then stitched across here. I have actually trimmed this. Now then you're going to go to the iron, press that open flat. I even gently and carefully but gave it a little bit of a shot of steam to make sure it was really flat. Then when I press this in half for our next step, I've actually evenly distributed the thickness of those seams. They're not all in one lumpy spot. They're distributed as evenly as I can. When I did that, I also trimmed off the little knobby bits, these little bits that were sticking out later. So you can do that, or as I did, and then, where are my, here we go. Now, you need to cut off the ends if you're going to join it. Like, sorry, if you're going to just butt it up together. Sorry, but joining is different. Okay, so I would come along, if I needed to join here, I would actually lay it like so, and then the next one would start just there, and I can sort of continue my sewing around. Then when that's turned over, I will have 2 raw edges, but I can actually cover that with the leaves when I actually applique the leaves. So, okay, stems on. Now, next thing you can actually do anything you like now. You can do the leaves next, or the broderie purse, or the hexagons. It doesn't matter the sequence. So we'll look at the leaves. They're just, they come out as far as this point here, and then they just come over sort of the bottom of the stem here, so it enables you to cover any raw edge join that you might have here. Then the broderie purse, again the same techniques that we did in part 1. So you can see here I've got lots cut out, and any broderie purse project that I'm doing, I cut out a lot to start with, and I've actually got a decent amount of designs and size, you know, small, medium and large things to play with to sort of allow the fiddling to be much easier. So what we're worried about here is actually sort of fitting this curvy shape here. So one flower with a leaf each side, sort of pinching elements from in here really, and that sort of fits that space really well. Now here I've got a bouquet of flowers. So I've sort of chosen to have bigger flowers on the inside and then sort of more lighter area ones on the outside. So a bouquet. Now this is actually one piece of fabric here, but then this little bit here, the pomegranate with the leaf, is a separate piece cut out and tucked in underneath. The same with these 2 flowers and 2 leaves, that's a separate piece as well. And I've just butted that up to the other to sort of form a flowing type of pattern. Now, when I was doing the first side of this, and the flowers in the chintz design don't repeat a lot, so there's no way I could have used the same flowers all the way around. So consequently, every side's a little bit different. But when I did this flower and this flower, they just looked a little bit flat on the background. So I actually just got some DMC embroidery thread, and using 2 strands, just outlined it with a bit of chain stitch. So maybe if we can sort of have a close look down here. So I've just done the outside edge of that one, but then on this one here, I did the outside edge, but also a little bit of detail in here as well too, just to make it stand out a little more. Now, oops, just let me get this out of the way before we lose everything. So just have a bit of fun with obviously you can follow the photo and see what I've done, but have a little bit of a fun and a bit of a play with the broderie purse and see what you can come up with. Also too, if you're not a broderie purse fan, you could actually just do all hexagons, but remember if you're doing the program with the shops involved with Quilt Mania for the block of the month, you wouldn't have enough fabric to do all the hexagons. You'd have to introduce new fabrics yourselves. Now, the hexagons, because nothing is fussy cut, you can just start with squares, and so you can rotary cut these to make it a little quicker. 1.5 inches square, and you just place the hexagon in the middle, bring this over the top, and then just tack around. So, just working your way around each side. If you would fussy cut your hexagons, this is a little more tricky because sometimes the paper can move slightly, which with this way doesn't matter, but if you're centering a pattern, it could be quite crucial to the end result of how everything looked. So, and voila, last one. And so there's your hexagon tacked under really quickly, just using a square. Now, once that's you've got all 4 sides done, give them a press and then trim them back to the correct size. Now, remember it's 4 inches by 28 inches finished, so that means you cut it 4.5 by 28.5. Now, next we have to look at the corner squares. So they are a 4.5 inch square to come back to a 4 inch square to match the border. Choose a larger flower for here, so sort of say something like that. So there's no stems or anything on this. Where the stems meet underneath these leaves, you've just got like a flat end. We're going to fix that later by embellishing it with leaves once it's all together. So just choose a bigger flower for the corner. I sort of had it that this part of the flower was coming out from the centre of the quilt. So I've got 2 ends the same, like the top corners are the same flowers and the bottom corners are different, but they're the same flowers down there. They're just different to the top. Now, applique just the flower on, and then it's a little bit like this one here. Remember, we had 2 shorter lengths and 2 longer lengths. It's the same here. We've got, say, 2 sides and then a top and a bottom. So you add the corner squares to each end of the top and to each end of the bottom. Now, before it's attached to the quilt, you can actually do the leaves on this side here, where you've done one long strip here. These ones will have to be done later when we join the whole thing together. So these leaves can be done next, top and bottom, and then you can add all the borders to your quilt. Then once they're all on, obviously you do the short sides first, then the long top and bottom, then do the final leaves on the last side that you've actually just joined. And then that means magnifique. Part 3 is finished. I promise part 4 will not require quite so many hours. So but just enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video.